Good morning. The major concern of this discussion, or this broadcasting rather, is to warn the opposition against Hakainde Hichilema. Hakainde Hichilema must be stopped 2026. It's very easy. Why Hakainde Hichilema can be stopped? If the opposition listen to God, then Hakainde Hichilema can be stopped. If the opposition continue to disregard God's warning, then Zambia will suffer persecution for another 5 years or more. Why? Listen to the Declaration of Conscience was a Cold War speech made by the U.S. Senator from Maine, Margaret Chase Smith, on June 1, 1950. She stated the basic principles of Americanism were the right to criticize, the right to hold unpopular beliefs, the right to protest, the right of independent thought. These four things are not available in Zambian politics. These four things, they cannot be available. That is the reason why Hakainde Hichilema must go. When Hakainde Hichilema goes, it will be an opportunity for the opposition that would form one formidable force under Kasonde Mwenda can own the mines. I want to quote based on this to say this Senator, Margaret Chase Smith, she actually outlined things that need to run what is called democracy. But this democracy, because it is not democracy, it is actually Vatican rule that constitutes the mark of the beast. The unity of a declaration of church and state as a Christian nation is actually evil. We are from an era where we understand that the Europeans used the Bible in order to capture our mind. They actually preached more love, whilst they were inheriting our independence through democracy. And this democracy blindfolded us. We are not able to criticize. We are not able to hold our unpopular belief. We are not able to protest when we need to protest. We are not able to have independent thought. So the way the colonial masters came with the Bible on their hand, but on their right hand, but on their left hand, they were digging our natural resources, stealing from us. Today, democracy comes on the other hand, preaching independence, preaching the right to protest, but in the actual act, there's no protest. If today I would say all opposition parties can hold a protest rally, all those who are going to be in the forefront of calling for protest, they'll be arrested before they could even hold the rally to protest. So the only major point here that I'm tracing is, I want to say to you to say, these Democrats, they are claiming to say there is free education. What free education? What is free education? There's no free education. It's colonialism, imperialist education. You are not learning anything to do to unite Africa. You are not learning anything to do with the dependence of our natural resources. You are learning to become a secretary. You are learning to become a minister of debt management bill. So those debt management bill, which was being debated and passed in parliament, colonial master mindset, they want you to believe that you can only survive when you borrow from IMF. They want to tell you to say you can only survive when you depend from World Bank. They want to teach you to say you can only survive by depending on donor aid, EU funding to fight corruption. Which corruption are they fighting? They are not fighting corruption. They are actually fighting opposition. They are actually fighting the truth. Any leader that calls for ownership of natural resources, that leader has to be killed, has to be found wanting before the law. Cyber law must visit him. For any other reason, the courts in Zambia, they are under control of Hakainde Hichilema's decision to silence the opposition. And we need leaders from the opposition that are willing to save Zambia, not to save themselves as an individual. Any leader who is opposed to what I'm saying, I declare it to say, I want to prove to you to say, God appointed me to give leadership warning. And the other leader that I want to discuss about today is Michael Sat. I would ask you to request you to say, because I have letters of Michael Sat that I wrote to Michael Sat. These are the letters. Some of them, they are not here. They've been misplaced. Some, they have two pages and so, because I've been passing through thin and thick. But there are a lot of other papers that have been misplaced somewhere. I will still find some of those. But the point that I wanted you to understand is that this democracy, it has 4 horses of column. That is, column is a situation where they are using fear, ignorance, victory, smear on every leader that would stand up and speak the truth. They are threatened by arrest. They actually say that he is not informed, is ignorant. They will use victory, speaking evil. They will start smearing on that name. So now, I want to say that if we are able to realize that today Zambia is on what this Margaret Chase Smith, the senator, said, the use of fear. Everyone fears to speak because they've put the law to control the opposition, to control the citizens. Once you speak against HH, once you criticize him, they tell you, even on our Facebook, we are receiving those threats. No, the law is going to fist you. Interpol has been assigned to come and fish you out. I want to tell you to say, when the country is being driven on the mood of fear, fearless leaders must unite. I'm not saying the 20 other leaders that are for Tonse Alliance or PF, they cannot rule Zambia. Anyone can rule Zambia. Anyone can rule Zambia. Even Tasila Lungu can still rule Zambia. Even KBF can still rule Zambia. Whosoever can rule Zambia. Because what rules Zambia is the agenda that party or that government has. What is the agenda? What are we looking for? Among all these existing opposition parties, I want to say there's a letter. Okay, before I look into that letter, let me just try to tell you one thing to say. The source of wisdom of my understanding is visions and dreams. One of the letters that I wrote, it was to Amos Chanda, State House. This letter that I wrote to Amos Chanda, State House, I believe this letter was an eye-opening to Amos Chanda. And if Amos Chanda is willing to save the nation, I know he has been hired as a propaganda machinery, part of the propaganda machinery for UPND. Because UPND is desperate to actually win the elections, and they want to use people who have been in the system to give lies of progress and achievement under UPND. Well, as that lies, they are not there. I wrote to say, RIF National Crisis and Press Statement, because he was the one who was giving conflicting statement in his support that there's nothing that has happened on SATA. When I had reviewed to him to say, I've seen that SATA has been shot in fulfillment of the vision of 2008. That visions of 2008, they were meant to save SATA from dying in State House. But they did not understand. He did not understand. Even the people surrounding him did not understand. And my call for opposition to rally against Mwenda Kasonde, the EF leader, he never approached me for his support. God gave me a mandate to search for a leader that can accept to do what is right for Zambia, not for himself, not for me, not for anyone else, but for Zambia. Because Zambia is adopted by Vatican City. That's why you find that there is a Freemason, there is also the homosexuality. Any country, even South Africa, where homosexuality is allowed, it is a sign of being adopted by the Vatican. Because these sins, they remove the nation from God. They actually compel God to curse the nation. And here it is. I wrote to Amos Chanda because he was giving a lot of contradiction instead of consenting to the fact that the president was assassinated. There was an assassination attempt. Him continues to tell the nation, no, the president is attending in Tanzania, has gone for this meeting, he's in Livingstone, what and what. All was lies. Then I said, how are you? I'm all right, and the Lord is blessing me and my family. The rumors about the assassination of the president last Sabbath on 21 January 2012 happened 6 days after the 15th January 2012 appointed date for ending the 90 days national prayer. That was aborted because the president did not consent to it. The assassination rumor prompted me to SMS you and asked, is it well with the president? And you replied, he is very well. Just finished a 90 minutes interview with the Time magazine a while ago. SMS 19 hours dated 2024-01-2012. The 90 days that I'm running now, that was the 90 days that I started running in Kanyama. And these 90 days, I think I have an application that I made to Kanyama for the 90 days meeting. Okay, nevertheless, I'll look at it later. But what I wanted to say is that I aborted the 90 days because Sata could not consent to read. Right now, I'm running a 90 days. I understand within these 90 days, their leaders, Botswana, came out openly addressing his decision to align himself with Ibrahim Traoré. Understand even Uganda has taken that bold decision. So my call for a United States of Africa is a political decision that God assigned Jeremiah to bring down, to destroy, and to plant kingdoms. That is power. For me to claim God's appointment, it did not just come. I was anointed when I was 19. Because the letters that I've just shown you, there are two men. There are two men. I'll read them. I'll count them anyway. I'll count them and read some of the parts to show you that God spoke all what is happening in advance. I'm calling upon all the opposition leaders, if they want, they can make a conference call. They can make a conference call. I can address and answer every question if they have any suspiciousness. If they won't take my word, they're allowing the suffering in Zambia to continue for a longer period. Because the only grace period that we have is the 4 years where America has cut ties with the African countries, where there is sanctions. These sanctions, you do not need to appeal against them. You must accept them as the first reason why you are not interested to have American base in Zambia. So the reason Hakainde Hichilema still holds on American base is under hostage. He has no decision to make. And the reason why he does not want to resign is because he's selfish. I appealed to Hakainde Hichilema to resign when he was actually maybe 5 months in office. I wrote to him, resign. Within these 5 months, you have proven that you have failed. Actually, when it was about, almost a year, because it was 2022, somewhere there, almost a year in office, I wrote to him to say, can you resign? Because you failed. So he rejected to resign because he's fearing for his life. And they have continued to mount propaganda. And the way I'm reading this letter to Amos, I'll read it and warn Amos to say, Amos, you fought God's warning under Michael Sata. Today you are hired to fight God's call for opposition to unite by you being positioned in UPND to fight the opposition using propaganda. By this time, this propaganda won't succeed. This is what I said. This reply of the magazine this reply of an interview with Time magazine a while ago, that was SMS Time 1904, date 24/01/2012. I said this reply of a magazine that is not local and not found in the street for the poor, and the media reports and photos are not proving that the president is well. I'm Thomas that believe by touching the wounds of the resurrected Jesus Christ's hand, and I will not believe after the national. I will only believe after the national address. So I challenged Amos to tell the truth, to say whatever he told me about the well-being of the president was false. I will only believe only when I see the president address the nation. Today, the nation is in deep crisis because as a messenger of God, I seem to be contradicting the press. When asked about my prophecy in relation to the president's assassination story, my conviction is, if the president is not assassinated, then he is given a breathing space, as I saw in a vision, but without a divine intervention. I'm positive that the nation has suffered another grievous death of a sitting president. You see, when you look at this, I said, if the president did not suffer an assassination attempt, it means he has been given a breathing space. This breathing space, indeed, he was given. From that time of assassination in January 2012, he died 2 years later, in 2014. And he died whilst I was sleeping outside the United Nations, protesting because I've been wounded, been followed, to be killed because of this prophecy. I was recently arrested for trespass. It was not trespass. It was because of this gospel. It was because of this rescue operation message. So now I want to say that, let me check to say, this is the paper that proved to say there was a plot to kill that was under probe, whilst GBM was the Minister of Defense. GBM confirmed that indeed there was an attempt to kill Michael Sat, but Amos kept this thing secret. And even up to today, Amos Chanda is not willing to tell the nation the truth. And it's the same Amos Chanda who is now being used to cover the loopholes that UPND is being exposed for its failure. I'm appealing to Amos Chanda to come out in open. The opposition, I'm appealing to the opposition to understand God's purpose in all of this matter. Their unit is what shall deceive Amos Chanda and HH. I said, yesterday evening, I managed to listen to the Mobi TV news that reported the president to have been flagged off to Zambia by the ambassador in Ethiopia, as he described the AU meeting as successful. And the president promised to address the nation later. The Post has continued to publish pictures trying to prove that the president is alive and is back from attending the AU meeting. Here also Fred Mwembe comes in. Fred Mwembe was also hired to cover the assassination of Sata, which God owned through a vision in 2008. Fred Mwembe was hired. He too is aspiring to be a leader, to lead Zambia. He must come out in open and tell the nation the truth, the role he was playing, to cover up the truth. As a photographer, before I became an evangelist, I know how to analyze a picture, time of capture, the background, the gesture, and the atmosphere of the people on the photo tell the story than the writing at the bottom. I actually confess to say I'm not agreeing with what the Post newspaper is reporting. Fred Mwembe was the editor general of that Post. Everything that was happening, it passed under his scrutiny. He must tell the truth. I urge him to tell the truth. If my visions were lying, that confirmed that Michael Sata, that foretold actually in 2008 that Michael Sata shall suffer an assassination in State House if he becomes president. Let us start to admit the fact that God has been warning all the late presidents against what is happening today. What is happening today is the economical slavery that has been enforced on us through the IMF, the World Bank, America. These three that I've mentioned, they are actually being used by the Vatican in secret. When you talk about Catholic Church, the way Hakainde Hichilema said that it has been in operation for 130 years in Zambia, secretly and in an evil way, but portraying goodness by giving us gifts, by caring for the poor, by becoming a voice for those who are infringed. We know third term, it was actually Catholic that defeated third term. But behind the scene, they've been preparing for the government of Hakainde Hichilema so that Freemason can be free, and so that the homosexuality, they can be free, to make sure that there is no prayer in Zambia that can be answered by God. Because if a nation is actually practicing those Sodom and Gomorrah sins, it cannot be a nation that can be even be proudly saying that we are a Christian nation. What Christian nation are you talking about? I continue to say, the president's moving pictures on TV without talking, and the newspapers still photos create a crisis in my head, and many questions are not answered. E.g., when the president first met President Robert Mugabe at Sun Hotel in Livingstone, media showed President Sata shaking hands with the Zimbabwean president. And why not shaking hands with the AU summit chairperson in Addis Ababa? In South Africa, the president shook hands with President Zuma and the Malawian President Bingu Mwamutalika. And Uganda, he addressed the summit. This is clear, but why the president was not being seen with different personality at the summit than just the photo with Robert Mugabe, whose background is empty, and the Zambian audience as on a queue waiting for a handshake in Sun Hotel? Again, both events, his departure and return from AU in Addis Ababa, the nation was only shown pictures of the president without any speech to address the nation. On the other hand, the Post showed the picture of the president with Zambian children living in Addis Ababa, as opposed to South Africa or Uganda, where he was shown with high-profile leaders or guest of honor. So I was trying to analyze the news, the way it was happening. The papers that we are reading, they can be tools of manipulation, misleading. The TVs that we are watching, they will be tools of misleading, manipulation of our mind. Bigotry takes a major control as fear-driven news grips the mind. And whatever you listen to news, you take it as gospel truth without scrutiny. I continued. I said, yes, I'm one among men who is eagerly waiting for the national address. And I expected it yesterday evening, and this morning. I asked the state to help solve my crisis by prompting allowing the president to address the nation on assassination story, Zamtel, Zanaco, ZRA, and the 100% wage increment, or perhaps this false prophet. I'm waiting. I was waiting to listen for the president to speak on media about the assassination story, about the takeover of Zamtel, Zanaco, Zambia Railways Authority, and the 100% increase wage, which was the news. And the SATA was just put on the background without him speaking. This was a total rejection of the vision that I owned. The vision that led me to ask for the nation to go for a 90 days prayer meeting so that SATA cannot be assassinated. Today, in the similar manner, I'm calling to say the 20 opposition leaders or 20 those who are aspiring to stand on the PF or Tonse chairman, those 20 names must actually, we don't even need alliances of saying, oh, political parties, let all these opposition parties just dismantle at once and form one formidable political party, that is EFF under Kasonde Mwenda. If that is done, allow Kasonde Mwenda to accomplish God's given agenda to remove Zambia from Vatican control, to remove Zambia from IMF control, to remove Zambia from World Bank, to remove Zambia from dependence on EU funding to fight corruption. That does not mean that I'm saying that we need to support corruption. No, but the corruption that is being announced as corruption is not corruption. It's a fight against freedom of speech, freedom of independence, to be independent. Any leader that refuses to embrace homosexuality, like did Ed Kalungu, he has to be arrested. He has to be accused of corruption. And right away, as I'm speaking right now, I've been reading on social media, HH applying to see the board of Ed Kalungu. What is the doubt whether Ed Kalungu is dead or not? If the government feels that Ed Kalungu is faking his death, it means that the government knows that they persecuted Ed Kalungu silently by actions without arresting him publicly. They arrested him secretly, and they have been hunting him secretly, and hence he fled. And they know that if he's not dead, he fears to be arrested and to die in jail. So that's the reason why they are saying we want to see the body. What do you want to see the body for? Me, I want to see the body of UPND in 2026 taken to rest. So I continued. My interest in this matter is to rescue the nation. Maybe before I go here, I ended there. I said, perhaps this false prophet. I actually challenged Amos Chanda to say, if I'm a false prophet, I want to know that there was no assassination. If there was no assassination in State House, then I'm a false prophet. Then I continued. Then I will recant my faith in visions and dreams, and I'll stand ready to apologize to the president and to the nation. But if this assassination story is true, then the nation must be ready to accept church reformation, as this shall prove that indeed God speaks through visions and dreams. I stand today to the opposition to say, you go on my Facebook, you find the letters that I actually attached there. Print them out, read them. God revealed to me when I saw Sata with a wound on the head, on the chest, and on the shoulder. He was lying by the entrance of State House. So Sata, I warned this Sata. I think I'll explain in these other letters. I warned this Sata not to be president. But his idea must help if he could align himself with UPND that is intended to be used by Vatican. But him as a vice president, then UPND was not going to make people suffer. Then they admitted to that advice partially. Then it was revealed to me that Sata is fighting to be a leader in the PF-UPND pact. I advised again, but because Sata wanted to be president, as some of these 20 people that I'm talking about, those who want to stand on the PF ticket, one of those is KBF. If you become stubborn to God's word that says all the 20 of you, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of who you are, rally behind Mwenda and remove UPND in power for good in 2026. Remove UPND in power for good. If you refuse to do that, you should know that the blood of Zambians that have been killed because of lack of freedom to criticize, those who have been killed because they have no right to say any popular understanding of politics, they have to be killed. We are in exile because the governments that have been and the government which is there today, it is not giving us freedom to speak, freedom to criticize positively. So if you, in the 20 named opposition leaders, I want to say that Chabinga is not among those. Chabinga must be treated as a voice of UPND. Anyone that is following Chabinga, thinking that Chabinga is PF president, forget about it. Leave Chabinga alone. Let him continue mattering. Let him continue his corruption with South African judges. I'm talking of those 20. When they listen now, if their interest is to save Zambia, I'm putting the interest on their table. Zambia must be united under Kasonde Mwenda, and Kasonde Mwenda must be committed to God, and that he must actually do things according to God's will to make sure that Zambia owns natural resources. This one, the Zamtel, must be under the government. Zanaco, ZRA, all these other companies that were operating under UNIPI, they must be returned back to government. Government must provide meaningful employment. I want to say, I continued to address Amos Chanda. The UPND media, maybe media assistant or whatsoever, I don't know his post, but I saw him being paraded as a person that has joined the UPND and been appointed on the media desk. I said, my interest in this matter is to rescue the nation from whatsoever fate, or whether the president is alive or dead, from the power of the frog that crushed late President Mwanawasa's office. What I believe is my vision of Sata's fate in 2008 was meant to rescue him and the nation from the Antichrist, but he treated it with contempt. Again, I'm saying to you, Mr. Chanda, that the blood of president shall be upon your head. For I told you face to face, well in State House, that the 90 days national prayer was meant for the president, and you did not want to confirm the appointment for me to pray for him as you had promised. But it's not too late. I'm calling the nation to Mount Carmel to meet with Elijah, that is Masuka, the prophet, and King Ahab Sata with his 450 prophets, Sunday worshippers that do not believe in the 10 Commandments, and SDA Church that do not believe in visions and dreams today. So I was challenging the Sunday worshippers and the SDA Saturday worshippers who did not believe in what? In visions and dreams, to say the happening has authentic proof that God has been speaking to me. Even today, I want Chanda to actually dispel the claims that it was not an assassination attempt, meaning that the Minister of Home Affairs, GBM, was lying also. What I saw in 2008, it happened.